Milan fans, hey, how's it going? It's Milanista's 360 pod, which are hosts Shane, coming from, are staying in Nairobi, Kenya, and also Hosni from now, based in beautiful Malaysia. Unfortunately, a very under the weather Hosni, and not just because of the awful form of the team. How are you doing this week, Hosni?
Well, before 2 days ago, I was absolutely fine. But now that I wouldn't, it's not COVID, definitely. It's just that this bug is going around. And I think I caught it from somewhere. I mean, I've been to a lot of places, including the Super Cup in Riyadh. So I probably caught it from somewhere in my travels. How's everything with you, Shane? We good?
Oh man, yeah. I mean, really enjoying the awful form of the team. It's great. Uh, it's like, man, it's actually getting worse. Since we started doing these, we've been on a downward slope. I
Maybe
think
we'll
we, I
jinx
think we got
it.
to be seriously careful here. What I might start doing is like wearing a Napoli jersey.
You're right. You're right.
Yeah, just to try and like temper it down a bit. But yeah, so we got like quite a lot of things that we want to cover today. So obviously, as the title says, so there's quite a lot of inactivity going on based around their transfer window with Cardinale. It's also, Juventus and this craziness that they've gone through over the last couple of days. Basically getting slammed with a huge points fine, and it's probably just the start, you know. Also, need to cover a couple of one big potential transfer if rumors are to be believed, and yeah, Milan kind of cutting dead weight as well, which is actually a good sign. So yeah, plenty of stuff to cover today, man.
Yeah, you're right. And
Mm.
whilst we were away during that Super Copa disaster, the rest of the team were actually playing the normal regular games in the league. So yeah, there's a lot to cover as you've mentioned. So let's get right into it. Okay, I think this is the biggest piece of news for not only Milanistas but Serie A fans. Interesting graphic that was up here on the screen, the -15. So Shane, take us through what you think happened and how is it going to affect the rest of the season.
Yeah, great. So I mean, so essentially, if reports are to be believed, due to the inflation of player valuations and some very questionable uh, transfer sums that Juventus have received. Um, yeah, they've basically been docked 15 points. So as a result, I believe they're now in what is it, 10th in Syria.
Yeah, they're on Chelsea's position in the EPL. Yeah, it's interesting.
Man, do you know what the thing is? Fair dues to Juventus because when they commit fraud, they don't have to it. You know, like they go at it big style, man.
Yeah, but I mean, what is your take in terms of the magnitude of the punishment? Because there's a lot of discussion on the web, especially I know you're quite in sync with the Twitterverse, whether this 15 is, fit, does it fit the crime? Or because we've seen the punishments to Juve before and they've taken some pretty harsh punishments. In my opinion, not harsh enough, but I guess if you're Juventini, you could say that this is probably just another disaster in the history books. So, I mean,
Mm.
what do you see 15 points? This is the equivalent of losing 5 games. We have 13 left to go.
Like, I mean, look, there's always going to be the part of, obviously being, I guess, being a fan of a team that's not Juve. It's kind of, you're gloating at them, right? And the thing is in a weird way, the Juventus fans are really right when they say, "Oh, this is very bad for the league," because it is. But the problem is Juventus fans aren't saying that from a good place. They're literally saying that because they don't want their team to get smashed and relegated again. But the thing is, it is pretty bad for the league. I mean, look, it's not the first time. It's not the first time the Juventus have had to go through this, right? So, I mean, look, what do you do, man? Really, I mean, do you like? I think like the points deduction is just going to be the start because I mean, for all like apparently UEFA are kind of thinking about banning them from all European competition for like the next 3 years.
That's a start. A start, if I can say that.
Yeah. So, but again, like you kind of have to ask the question. I mean, look, at what point do you, you know, as a club or as someone that's running a club, at what point do you actually go, no, let's do things honestly and by the book? And how stupid does someone actually have to be to start committing like fraud, right? When you're a public traded company, which is essentially what Juve is, right? So man, I mean, they deserve everything they get. The problem is it, you know, I don't think people are taking it seriously enough when they kind of say like, oh, you know, whatever, you know, screw Juventus. And there is, you know, Juventus should be dealt with very harshly because it's a repeat offence. The problem is look what happened with Calciopoli, right? That damaged the Serie A reputation for
Until now,
years,
until today, yeah, yeah, you're right.
and it was just slowly coming back. And next thing, it's like, you know, so when Juve fans are kind of saying, oh, this is damaging for the league, I actually agree with them. But the thing is they're not coming from it from a point of view of like, oh, this is just damaging for the league. I'm worried about Serie A. They're literally saying like, oh, this is damaging. In other words, you know, fair enough, we committed fraud, but let it slide. You know, they don't have a leg to stand on, and you know, and the worst thing is what they're trying to do now. So they're all over Twitter, basically saying, oh. So if you're signed in up to DAZN or all these streaming apps that are showing Serie A, unsubscribe, right? So, but the thing is using that logic, right? That's actually taking money out of Juventus,
And the
right?
rest of the league though.
Because and the rest of the league. So, you know, that league that you were very concerned about destroying, right? You're actually just further doing it now. So, I mean, come on, Juventus fans, like seriously, like there has to come a point where you actually kind of go, do you know what, right? You know, like I mean, just seriously, grow up here and grow a braid, and what you're doing isn't the right thing, man. You know. And there's a very small amount of Juventus fans that are actually rightfully saying, "Well, look, okay, we should take it on the chin." And yes, they should, right? Just like I'd be saying if this was a situation with Milan, which it probably it could turn out being that way to a point because now they're investigating the Caldara transfer or the swap with Benucci, right? But I mean, I suppose it's one of the good things with Elliot coming in, you know, because we left all our players going to free. Good luck trying to get a capital gains argument out of that, right? So, like, but this could potentially go very far. And here's the thing, though, is that like at what point does it stop, right? Because some teams, you know, there might be a valuation problem with a team, and then it's like, you know, it could start becoming a an epidemic, you know, that could spread to other leagues. So, I mean, hey, if I'm watching the Premier League, I'd be very worried about this ruling.
Yeah, I just want to jump in there, and what you said is absolutely true. But for me, it's coming from a few different facets. So one is, of course, for Juventus itself directly as a club. This, to be honest, I don't really care about because the way they've done things is everyone has known, and this was always been, pushed away or talked off as a rumor mongering, just jealous fans. But now it's been proven. So for those who say that you shouldn't believe rumors, I mean, there's some people who notice that there's something wrong, and this is why even though rumors most of the times aren't exactly true or they be made up, to serve certain parties, but at least you got to listen. So in the case of Juventus, if it's Juventus, pay an extra attention, because what this becomes is that we've now have a repeat offender within the league. And the first time they did it for Calciopoli, and there's been documentaries on Netflix about this, they've they went down to Serie B and now they're only getting a 15-point deduction. Is this really the message that we send out to the rest of the clubs in the league, saying that you can be a repeat offender, you can do what you want, enjoy the spoils while you can until we catch you? Then I see this as a slap on the wrist. It's nothing major. If they had been moved down to Serie B, maybe you could say that I can consider that it's of the same magnitude, considering that they're repeat offenders. But to me, this isn't enough. In the time that and this is why I talk about the facets of the many angles of it. Look at it from all perspectives in the years that they've been doing this: the shirt sales, the merchandising, stadium revenue, and all this. I'm sure for the players, and of course, I don't know the club that well, whether they even do like one of those fill the stadium welcome or introductions for the big players. But what does it say? You just a lot of Juventus fans turning up the stadium or buying their shirts and really celebrating the wrong that's going on with the club. And as you've said, it reflects badly on the league. More so because it's Juventus and they're quite well known in Europe. It's not like
And it reflects badly on the fans that are actually still continuing to actually support them and say, "Oh no," because Because when you look at it, right, the main argument from Juventus fans now is actually, well, other teams have done the same thing, right? And the thing is, they could potentially be right, yeah. But the thing is when you start using that argument to absolve, your club of actually doing something horrifically wrong, right? Stop being an asshole. Seriously, that's like a 12 or 13 year old's reaction to getting caught doing something wrong. It's like, well, someone else did it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, come on, guys, what the hell are you playing at? Seriously, you should be ashamed of yourselves
But you look
supporting
at it
that
from
rotten club.
Yeah, looking at it from the other side, and of course, in terms of the league and the enforcement of the laws in the league, so it's obvious you couldn't do this, yeah. But when was it detected? And because if you see a transfer, and of course, transfer fees aren't, I guess you can't see the actual writing in the contract for the transfer fees for us regular fans, but I'm sure the authorities can. Someone knew that this was going on, but it took years to investigate, years, and apparently there's wiretaps about this. They love the wiretaps, and kudos to the enforcement in in Italy that you just don't depend on documents. You got to hear them say it. So that will be interesting when it leaks out. But yeah, it's. I'm also looking at it from the other side that FIGC, the league management overall, is terrible at handling this. So you let them, yes, as you said, get away with it, and use their silly excuse. But you let them get away for it for a while. And if you look at the transfers that were applied, I mean, those are all in the past. They've made their money, they've invested their money, they've rolled their money in however unethical or illegal ways. But nothing of that magnitude happens to them after the judgment is passed. Now we'll see. I guess this is a story in development.
And there's actually, and this is how badly this looks, right? So outside of everything that's happened, right? One of the directors for Juventus is still that's under investigation. That's essentially the firm that he was involved. I can't remember which one, but he is now still at the club. He's just taken a new role because under Italian legislation, you can't have like it's I think it's something to do with like you can't be in the money side of the club, right? So he's literally moved roles. So someone that's guilty of committing fraud is still in charge at Juventus.
Yep. Yeah.
Seriously, guys, wouldn't happen. This wouldn't happen in any other in any other club, right? In the big five leagues. Seriously, come on now. I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm saying, but this, as in people just abiding by this awful behavior without any punishment. I mean, come on, seriously, you know
Well, we'll see what happens to the other clubs, and if they do uncover something that is equivalent or even greater than what Juve have done. Time will tell. There've been a lot of rumors flying around. Even we under on the radar. Napoli's also under the
mm,
radar. So let's see where
mm,
it goes. It might be
mm.
very interesting if all top four teams got a deduction and we see the next tier moving up into the Champions League. I mean, talk about an embarrassment.
That's the only way Roma can ever win a league in this
Exactly.
decade. Something like this happens. Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to our next one. So, what we have here on the screen is actually Brahim Diaz, and a lot of talk about him, whether we're going to make this deal permanent, if there is indeed an option. A lot of people saying various different things. There is dry loan, which to me personally makes sense, but or if there's even that mythical option of what 22, 30 million with that buyback. I mean, there's many different rumors flying around, but like I said earlier, let's listen to all the rumors and for ourselves decide what we're going to do. How about you, Shayna? Do you want Brian Diaz at the club based on what you've seen?
I know.
Almost 3 years.
Nah.
3 years, maybe, yeah,
In
since his first loan.
Yeah, well, so here's the thing: is in typical Milan style, we're trying to haggle down the price to 15 million. But here's the thing: if you haggle down the price to 5 million, right? It still doesn't change the fact that he's just not effective. We can't be this kind of club now who's just waiting on someone to explode. It's not like remember with look, I'm not saying these are in the same category of class, but remember with Leao, right? It was like we'd wait quite a while for him to come good, but the flashes of brilliance were always there, right? He just fell out of games, right? With Diaz, you don't see any of that. You don't see consistency. So consistency, a lack of consistency isn't something that he's going to discover now. So I mean, we could get him for, let's say, if we get him for 15 million. Who cares? We still just have another inconsistent player. He's no better than Chalanoglu was.
Oh, look at that.
You know, Yeah, and this is going to feed into this next, idiot in a bit. But like, I mean, come on, seriously, like, are we seriously at the level now where we're you know we're depending on someone like Brahim Diaz to come on?
Yep.
Like, and this is the same board, by the way. They're saying we have no money for transfers, and then they're kind of saying, oh, let's sink 15 million into this guy who's laughably inconsistent and just, I mean, he's not a net positive for this club. I mean, seriously, guys, this
Yeah.
is, you know,
We spoke about this
not
before
not for
last
me.
week that the club is indeed very, as you said, sympathetic, or in my opinion, too generous, yeah, over generous. So Diaz has always been a Real Madrid player. Ever since he set foot in the club, he's always been a Real Madrid player. He continues to be a Real Madrid player, and this is my beef, not with
Just
Diaz.
not a Real Madrid level player.
Indeed, that's why they loaned him out. He wasn't a Manchester City level player. That's why they sold him to Real Madrid. But this is the beef that I have with how these transfers are actually being made. So a player that is not your own, that has a certain, if I may use the words expiry date, is allowed to be your starting number 10. By the way, in my opinion, the number 10, and all those classic numbers or those legendary numbers, you really have to be careful with who you give it to. Because like what you said, the inconsistency of Diaz. Are you serious that this is our number 10? Who have we had in number 10 in the amazing years, in the legendary years? We've had some great players, like real Ballon d'Or caliber players. But you give it to Diaz.
Like, and this guy's wearing it. I know, yeah.
Yeah, and you put him straight in our starting lineup. And it's not for the fact that you don't have players. And, people can keep hearing me saying it, Yasin Adli. We have players that need the time. And they keep talking about development, let them grow and all this. This generosity or sympathy is backfiring on the club because players are taking it easy. They know that no matter how they play, they probably nothing's going to happen to them. They're going to start the next game, and the message it sends to our other players is definitely not good. And if we see the recent performance of Brahim Diaz, where he started quite a number of games, you would have to agree with me because you want to pay money. I mean, I can go back to the success stories, and everyone was saying, don't just focus on the amazing success stories, but also look at the failures. But this is definitely in the category of failure. So you're going to pay 15 million, whereas Kavicha was bought for 10 million. And I'm not saying that if Kavicha joined Milan, he would be amazing. The reason being that Pioli would probably bench him for 6 months and trying to teach him how to play football. So this is why it's not working.
No, and this is my problem against Diaz as being someone that we invest in, because what happens is we have a reasonably good hit rate, right? When it comes, reasonably good, not perfect, right? Balotore comes to mind. Some right clangers, but like, we've a reasonably good hit rate when it comes to scouting talent, right? So there's nothing to say, right? If we invested that 50 million on another cam, right? Keep in mind, weren't we linked with Enzo Fernandez as well? And obviously,
Yeah, no
the
one's
price
willing
shot
to
up.
take a
So
risk on those players. Yeah, but we took a
I
risk on
mean, the thing
Piqué.
is, exactly, why are we wasting time with this guy? Like, we can with our scouting department now, we could reinvest that 15 million into someone who actually, even if they're inconsistent for a year, it doesn't matter, because the net effect and the positivity to the team is going to be the same as if Diaz is playing. So come on, guys. I don't know why we feel we're dependent on this chap, and there's not, there's no, we seriously need to be moving past this now. It's
Yeah, but
yeah.
I mean, there's no denying it, and everyone's got to acknowledge that Diaz has scored some important goals while he's played for us. So some things that come to mind is Inter. So when he came on, it was yeah, and we won the league because of those 3 points. You could argue that he was part of that. Definitely, is that there is a player there, yeah, and I won't deny that Diaz. He's not rubbish in the sense that he doesn't do anything. We have rubbish players actually on our team that maybe we'll speak about later. He's definitely not rubbish, but if you want to win titles, if you want to win trophies, this is not the sort of player that you get. He's has some good dribbling. He can find spaces if there are spaces. But forget the aerial ability because he's about my height, and I've seen him in real life. FYI, but we'll see how this pans out. And I mean, is indeed a rumor, and he goes back to Real Madrid. I wish him well, and I'm not going to hold it against him. All right. So the next topic has to be our new owner, Jerry Cardinale, and I know there's a lot of things that you have to say about this guy, seeing that everyone knows his name, but he might as well be a ghost because he seems to enjoy watching games in his New York City penthouse rather than being there and seeing the pain and frustration of fans real hand. But what do you think? And some people will say it's a bit too early to judge his ownership, but it's been 6 months, and we are now almost towards the end of the first full mercato. Granted, it's the winter mercato, but is this a sign of things to come? What do you expect, Shane? Because it's going to be a long road ahead.
So remember, I said a couple of pods ago, I was like, the worst thing that could happen is if Cardinale raised this carrot and stick in front of every Milan fan, basically saying, "Oh, we'll be fine when the stadium's built. We'll be able to afford all these great players." And that was the carrot and stick that we were being given. But here's the thing, though, right? As soon as that stadium is built, we're going to be even more broke because that stadium has to be paid for,
50%
right?
only.
So, well, 50%, right? But we're still going to be broke. I mean, Arsenal comes to mind.
Tottenham, yeah,
Again,
another one.
they're right, Tottenham as well. Difference is Arsenal have a good project, Tottenham don't. Sorry, guys. I'll probably be really upset I said that because they'll destroy us in the Champions League. But anyway, here's hoping they don't. Um, no, but like, so here's the thing though, right? So it's like, yeah, sure, I understand where he's coming from about, okay, so you get the stadium and, obviously you can get the revenue and the perks and the benefits from that, right? But here's the thing is, you know how Italian bureaucracy is. We can't wait 5 years for some sort of stable or some sort of investment. We had Elliott Management, right, who are a vulture fund, right? And they've invested more consistently over the last few windows, right? And they made good buys. I think Cardinale's plan essentially was go all in on CDK, right? Oh, that didn't work out. Okay, let's just wait till next year. It's a, this is very worrying, like, you know? So I understand we're doing things by the book. Juve probably take a note of this, how you do things properly and responsibly, but it cannot be at, at the, it can't be, you know, a good balance sheet isn't something that a kid gives a toss about when if they're deciding to support a club, right? And nor should it be really. So I mean, look, you know, no one's expecting 100 million purchases or a 100 million player, right? But it comes to something when Maldini comes out and says there's not going to be any investment. Like, that's not financial fair play or anything else. That's literally just someone choosing not to invest. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. But
It's not good.
let's
Not
face
good.
it, and we've known this for a while, is that even from the day that he came, by the way, right after the Scudetto celebrations, he went to see the San Sesto location. So, in my opinion, it looks to him like this is a stadium project and just bundle with the club. Whereas the difference with Elliot was that they had bought a club and they knew they weren't going to stick around long enough to pursue the stadium. So, I I think this is where the focus and where fans are a little bit agitated or even frustrated because say it how you will, you need to reinvest in your squad, you need to rejuvenate, you need to find the pieces that work. That takes money. And when you say that, okay, I have an incomplete puzzle and I'm not allowed to get the pieces, you're going to be looking at the incomplete puzzle and how it stacks up against other teams that are willing to go, I wouldn't even say the extra mile, but even the extra yard. They will find that quality to beat you. And we've seen this in teams that shouldn't beat us, hashtag Torino. So this is where fans are
Twice.
becoming, yeah, increasingly angry, even though in the 6 months, and you could say it's a little bit premature. But what can you do, if you're seeing this sort of form and not getting any players? By the way, you might argue that we did get a player because we got that keeper. What's his name? Davis Velasquez, is that his name? Something like that?
Vasquez,
Vasquez.
yeah, I think so. No, no, I got you, right? So, yeah, but here's the thing, though, is that, like, if Maldini came out and basically said, look, here's a clear plan, guys, we're not investing in this winter mercato because this is the plan for the summer, right? People, have some bit of understanding then, right? But when Maldini comes out and says, look, we're not investing in January, right? Okay, so why why not? Okay, so if you're not investing in January, what are you doing in the summer?
Indeed.
So the thing and the problem with the investment is, it's not as if Milan are the likes of Man City, who have probably, of like 25 great potential starting players, right? Like we we have serious problems on the right side that needs to be rectified. That could be rectified with a loan if they don't want to go for a transfer, right? But the thing is it's not even being attempted. Instead of focusing on a huge problematic area, which is the right wing, or dare I say it now, after Tomori's mess up again in the Supercopa, right? We have a problem in the centre back as well, which, to be fair, they were trying to go for Botman, and that didn't work out, right? So maybe dare I say it, we might be in a completely different situation now if we got Botman, right?
Sure, but in
But
fairness, and just sorry to cut
mm,
in, a lot of fans were not in favor of Botman because at that time we were still riding off that excellent defensive performance towards the end of the Scudetto winning season. So it looked like we didn't need Botman, so we needed something more in attack. But yeah, it's the ifs and buts. Maybe it's with hindsight, it looks a little bit uh, more like a smart move. What Maldini tried to do with spending that time with Botman. And by the way,
mm,
Renato Sanchez was absolute waste of time, and I saw him play in in person. So
like, perfect for us, man, because he's always injured.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm sure he came during his visit. He came to see the hospital and the training and the medical facilities, and he wasn't that impressed. So off he goes
That's
to
it.
PSG.
Another player gone for the PSG project,
Yeah.
quote unquote. Yeah.
All right. So yeah, I think this is a big news. What we need to talk about next. This has to do with Nicolo Zaniolo. His name is famous, but he's famous for two things. One, of course, is his performances on the pitch, and pull up the highlight reels, and you see that there is a player there. However, the second thing he's famous for is also being injured. So, Shane, which one do you think we're going to get most likely? Is he going to be the to be legendary Zaniolo or the hospital-bound Zaniolo?
So, well, here's the thing: is on paper it makes sense, right? Because we get an Italian player, happy days, chalk that off for the, you know, Champions League squad list. But in terms of the player's overall attitude, right, it's kind of like he's already burnt his bridges at Roma.
Yeah.
So, and say what you want about Mourinho. Mourinho does call out players for this quite a lot. Like he did the same thing with Dele Alli at Spurs, and look how Dele Alli's career has gone for him since. He can't even get a first. He can barely start in the Turkish league now. So Mourinho's quite good at seeing problematic players and then junking them very fast. So here's what we're getting.
Yeah, no doubt. And
I,
as
you
you
know,
said, it's Mourinho's abilities. And by the way, those are the sort of abilities and foresight that has led him to so many, over 20 titles, trophies, and all that. So he's an accomplished coach, no doubt about it. Yeah, regardless of that he's been with Inter and all this, he managed to get that team to win the Champions League. I mean, and then also with
and a
Porto.
triple.
Yeah. So
Like,
there, the coach is there. Yeah, and I'm leaning more towards or inclined towards saying that he's right because of his experience and he's seen numerous numbers of players over the many years of different sorts of abilities. And like you said, if he is okay with someone letting go of the club letting go someone, he knows what he's doing. But then it comes to the receiving club or the club that's out to get this player. What are we thinking? So no doubt we need a right wing, and that's where I will probably see Zaniolo playing if he does come. However, if he's not going to be fit, then why get him? And if the rumors are true,
mm,
about 25 million and below that, it might not even be 25 million. For now it's 25 million, but if they do push it and get this deal done, I'm sure it's going to be 30 plus million because
because
that's
he's out, and it's a 2024. The
yeah,
contract runs out. So now, to make it worse, not only are we not investing in the squad now, we're actually trying to look at potentially getting players a year down the line or a year and a half down the line, right?
okay. I thought
So, I mean,
yeah,
like,
I
because
thought they
I
were
mean,
going
they're
to.
hardly going to get him for 25 million now, surely. And if they are, God help us, because I mean, if Roma are going to let go of this kid for 25 million, that's Mourinho essentially saying, just get him out the door. I don't really need him.
Yeah, man, they can do a lot with 25 million, especially a club like Roma. You've seen the players
That's
that we
it.
managed to get in. Tammy Abraham, and he's been on the pitch, and okay, he's not been the top scorer, but he scored quite a number of goals for the team. So
Mm.
compared to the force that we have, I think Roma have also done quite a bit right. Maybe their backline is not as great as
Ro-
ours.
My thing is with Mourinho. I think all Mourinho needs is he's kind of cost effective in a way, because all he really needs is a very good backline.
Yeah.
In Roma, he doesn't have a very good backline. So if they invest well and Mourinho stays and doesn't throw his ties out the prem, if he stays for another 2 years or so and they get a solid backline together, they could be a dangerous team, man.
We'll see. I mean, if he does improve in terms of the performances on the pitch, because even in his recent years in Roma, I don't think this is the legendary status Zaniolo. Maybe he's already thinking about the way out. This could be one of the reasons why he's not giving it 100%. But the next club, if he joins us, I'll be a little bit upset. But overall, we have to support our players and see how they do, because
Mm.
there are options out there. But for maybe you're right, as you've said, for the Italian quota that we have to fill, maybe this is the player that needs to be in the list rather than on the pitch. All right. So the last thing that we'll speak about is the calamity, the disaster that was the Super Copa. For those who aren't aware, I actually went to see the game in Riyadh, so I was doubly pissed about what happened. Just to describe the event of 2 days to you, is that the team stays in Four Seasons Hotel, so I managed to get some nice pictures with them, especially with the key players like Tonali, Giroud, uh, Kier, Calabria, and all that. Uh, However,
Baresi,
and there's a meet
so
and greet
jealous.
the next day with Baresi and Massaro. Albertini apparently was there, but as usual, the third guy for any meet and greet comes quite late, so I don't get what was going on. But the overall experience to me as a fan was great. However, the experience during the game was not great. We fell, guys, and it was a collapse. Everyone, not say everyone, but there's so many fans that online was saying that we shouldn't be worried about Super Copa because it's just a fake piece of silverware. But to the guys who turned up to the stadium, and most of them were Milanistas, you could sense that there was a high amount of frustration because you had to pay the ticket price, by the way, and it wasn't cheap. The cheapest ticket was less than $100, just under $100. So for a fan, it was painful to watch. However, for me, I guess it's made a little bit better with the meet and greet and the photos, the selfies that I took. But other than that, I mean, Shane, you watched the game, I'm sure. And how do you assess the team's performance? Because this is the most recent game that we had, and this will probably be the form going into the next game against. Guess what? Lazio, who are also battling for top four. Where's the hope
So
in the team?
yeah. So here's the thing: is I can understand the sentiment because I kind of echoed it. I think on the last pod when we started talking about this thing. It's a one game trophy, right? However, when you're playing Inter, that escalates it a bit in terms of right. This is how much effort we should put in. And fair dues to the Inter squad. They comprehensively. I mean, they did everything very well. They were very clinical. They were playing against a very poor backline that was disjointed and completely broken. Um, my concern is, and I this kind of game has confirmed it to me more so. I think we probably have a group of players that maybe for reasons of being overplayed before the World Cup, um, I think they're kind of getting over Pioli, right? And I think Pioli has been away. He's made a rod for his own back, I guess, because he wasn't vocal about getting enough established talent for the Mercato. So unfortunately, He's dealing with the negative things about that. Um, People that said that we don't miss Kessie, I think this is a great example of where we did. There was no calming influence in the middle of the pitch. Tonali, I mean, he gave away that goal, sorry, he didn't give it away, but I mean, he didn't even get it completely turned for that. Was it Skriniar?
Yeah, yeah.
I think it was
Man, I didn't
Tonali's
see the
goal.
names on the back of the shirt. They're actually scoring in
I
my
think
direction.
I just completely. I mean, this is literally a team. When you see the heroics of last season, right? This is and you compare it to a result like this. I think you know if a team goes out and look, if it's by a very short margin, and if they're unlucky, look, you're gutted, but you're gutted, right? But when you see a team of professional players like this completely capitulate, right, and with the talent that we still have, right, we are not a losing 3 goal to Inter type team now, nor should we be, right? This is very concerning. And to be honest, I'm just going to say it now. I think Pioli's lost it in terms of, I think he's lost control of the dressing room. He doesn't maybe have that influence of Ibra, because I don't know what the hell Ibra's doing. I don't know, is he over in the States or whatever the hell he's doing now these days. But Ibra isn't there to provide a calming leadership influence. I think Pioli's lost it. We're slowly kind of starting to see that now. My thing is, if we get rid of Pioli, right? Like, we're kind of starting from square one, because I mean, ideally, who would you replace him with? Maybe Klopp if he leaves Liverpool, maybe Conte, but even Conte isn't a long-term manager. I mean, he's proven that multiple times over his career. Players, and you know, chairmen get bored of Conte. Conte gets bored of clubs. So I mean, you know, Klopp would be a great replacement. But the thing is managers of their quality are not going to come, because we can't essentially say that we're going to basically provide them with substantial investment that they need to make this team better. So going by that metric, I mean, you know, this is a very dark time. And Pioli's had sufficient time now to be able to actually, well, one, to open his mouth and basically say, listen, I got you to Serie A last year, you know, with a limited squad, right? I was given CDK fair juice, but that hasn't worked out, and it hasn't worked out yet. If it will or not, that's another story. But I mean, outside of that, you know, nothing on the right side. This is bad. I just see it as, as the team has given up on Pioli, and it's a shame, because I like the guy, and we should always be indebted to him for giving us this Serie A. But I think he's just lost it. What do you think?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And even before we got the title, I was purely out for reasons maybe I should not go into so well because I've been proven wrong, which I like to be
And you
wrong.
know what the funny thing is? I think this is why I'm not saying Pioli out now, because it's like, well, I was wrong before,
Yeah, but maybe that's
you
what we
know.
need to do. We need to reverse jinx the guy because, as you said, it doesn't look like the team is playing for him anymore. So a lot of the mistakes that we're making now, I've never seen us make in last season. And I'm not talking about the Milan of 2007 or 2005, by the way, yeah, when we got to the Champions League final. Those were real teams, but basic mistakes, basic errors, and I'm thinking as well as the Kalulu mistake during the game against was it Torino or
Hmm.
Roma? So
Roma, I think,
yeah,
and maybe Torino. No, and
yeah,
Lecce,
I think.
because remember, in Lecce he didn't jump.
Yeah, so
But
those sort of
yeah.
mistakes. I mean, I'm not a professional coach by any means, but I didn't see it last season. But somehow it seems to be that we're so
Do you
relaxed.
know, it's mental fatigue, man. That's literally what it is. If you see Tonali getting turned like he got turned for the Inter goal in the Coppa Italia final, that is literally mental fatigue. And
But
that
who's it
is,
up to
I'm
then?
playing too much.
So Tonali, Benacer, those are our two starters. We don't have anyone else. I mean, we have players, but we don't really have anyone else that you could say is.
No, but you just hit the nail on the head there, though. You just hit the nail on the head.
Yeah,
We have, for a team that's in the Champions League knockouts, we have two starting midfielders.
and that in itself is a success. I mean, if you look at Pioli's record, and we may be prejudging him a little bit because the season's not over, but the trajectory doesn't look good. In the Champions League is better because now we are out of the group, so you could say money's in the pocket. But it needs to be
Do
more than
you
that.
t- do
More
you
than
take Kessie back?
No, I wouldn't because there we need to reward loyalty. By the way, yeah, I wouldn't want to take anyone back just for the sake of it. And Cassie, he made his choice. This is why I was against Bakayoko coming back because if we had really wanted it, we would have got him before. We didn't need to play these games and have him go to Napoli and look disappointing and then come back and join us on 2 year loan. It's the decisions of this club really don't make sense sometimes. Really, like completely inexplainable. However, we live with it, and it's not been that bad. But we lost to a team that has lost 5 games this season, and we beat them before. Not too long ago, a few months ago, we beat Inter, and we look like Okay, other than the towards the end of the game where it looked like they were mounting a comeback, I don't see why it couldn't have been done. At least draw the game because you lost to a team that has lost 5 games this season, and we are champions, by the way. So the maths of it, statistics, or I mean the form of it doesn't look good to me, and it's only going to continue because we don't have a break and we don't have reinforcements to rejuvenate the squad. Zlatan is maybe going to play only 1 month this season, so he's probably laughing all the way to the bank. I don't know even if he can pull off the same trick because what he's probably going to say, the players have heard it before, but they just look so disinterested. And I'm really going to say that if we don't make top four, purely has to go. Now the question is, who's going to go with him? That is the bigger question.
Mm. Yeah, because the thing is, man, I mean, like, because you know what's going to happen. Because right, like, so the same, and this is the thing. So the same people that are kind of saying, "Oh, Pioli out," right?
Yeah,
So be very careful what you wish for, because what's going to happen is we're not going to go for anyone who's, we're not going to go for someone who's really established,
yeah.
right? Even if the people who are available, like I heard people talking about like Thomas Tuchel or something, that guy he was managing Chelsea for a while, right? So here's the thing is, right, look at it from their point of view, right? If, as a coach, if I have won the Champions League, right, and Milan call me, right, first question I will ask is where are you going to find the 200 million to build the squad I need?
But if you give him the 200 million, and this is the point, more likely than not, he'll win it for you. This is the sort of caliber
Mm,
coaches that they will get. And by the way, based on
yeah.
last season, I'm sorry to say this, and maybe a lot of people will disagree with me. Serie A shouldn't be that difficult. It shouldn't be, especially for us. So we won it on you could say a shoestring budget, but Champions League is a completely different animal. So any coach of that caliber should easily win Serie A. This is what I think.
Oh, well, that's true. Yeah, I know, but it's just, but you know what's going to happen? Pioli is going to get the boot, and next thing it's going to be like, oh, they're going to promote a Abate from the Primavera and see how he does. And then if he doesn't work out, I don't know, maybe they might get, maybe someone who's doing relatively well lower down the league. Like who's that guy, Udinese?
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
yeah, I wouldn't mind him as a replacement. I like the
yeah.
attacking football that he plays with the Udinese.
So the thing is, I mean, and keep in mind, we could then be going through this merry-go-round where it's kind of like, oh yeah, so we're just going, we're not getting established coaches that we would like. So
Yeah,
exciting times ahead, man.
it looks like our setting is to win the league primarily with a mid-table squad and tactics. This is where it's going to wear out very quickly. I mean, I don't know how we pulled it off last season, but now we are exposed, absolutely exposed. All free kicks, all dead balls, definitely going to the back of our net. I don't know how this can happen. We're probably like the worst in the league at such things. Whereas we're AC Milan. Come on, guys. Where's the pride in the team? This is the one thing that I really have to question the players. If they don't want to play there, then if they want to keep thinking about their renewals and salaries, there's time to do it. Yeah, they can just tell the management saying that I want to go because I know I can get a better salary somewhere. But these games are killing us. The games that management are playing with the players are killing us. And this
I
result,
think it's
I don't
yeah.
want to be back in the
I
bad
just
era.
I get yeah, and this is the thing, man, because we're at a very very dangerous time here now, right? Because if you think about it, if we finish outside of the top four, right, right, which could feasibly happen, right, we're doing that in a season where Juve are decimated, right, because of what's happened, right.
Yep.
So we've left the likes of Lazio or Roma take a place in top four. This heads are going to roll, and it could even end up being Massara and Maldini, you know, because that is such a glaring screw up. And the thing is I like Maldini in this role. He hasn't gotten everything right. He's only human, but I like him in this role because he's good heritage with the club. I like the fact he's here. But the thing is I don't see, for all his lack of investment, I don't think Cardinale is going to be very patient.
He shouldn't be if he's worried about the money because the gap between not getting that Champions League revenue, it's to him, and I'm sure that even if he's not bothered with team performance, he's definitely looking at the books because he's not going to have to pay what 50, 60 million every year just to keep the club afloat. Whilst thinking
Yeah, and
about
that's
squeezing
that's
the
the
bit more.
rush. And this is the rush. It's like, well, keep us in the Champions League, sure, but it's like, when you have I think my thing with Pioli, I think he's potentially a bit of a yes man who, rather than actually kind of, like drawing a line in the sand and basically saying, "Look, I've given you the Serie A. Can you just give me some experienced players?" He didn't. He just accepted the kids that came, and there's still no benefits from them. Obviously, short they're not long into their careers, which I understand. But jeez, I mean, surely winning a league with the squad that he had is,
An overachievement, as they say.
well, even if it's an overachievement, but would would someone not even look at that and kind of go, actually, do you know what? All right, so this guy might be worth an investment in right wing,
Yep.
you know, instead of, going with Messias and Salamakers and then Calabria and then, you know,
No, but
like we're,
look at it in totality because we won the league, and you could say that is the pinnacle of achievements in domestically. Well, I
hmm,
guess if you add on the all the other small trophies, then yes, you could say that. So,
hmm,
what are we looking as a next step? Now, if you say it's overachiever, meaning that your next step is again just to win the league, I understand, which is fine. I want the second star too. But are your moves concrete enough to say that yes, this is the plan that is going to take us to the second star, and then we'll also set up the foundation because I'm sure this is it to actually try to win the Champions League. I'm not seeing that.
hmm.
Are we that short
No, definitely not.
to? Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, are we short
Think-
that short-sighted that this is what's happening? I
hmm.
hope not, because as you've mentioned, is that Maldini he's won it before, so he knows the feeling, he knows the experience. But I don't want this to be the last time. This is the concern that I have. All right, Shane.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're doing good on time, and do we want to just have some parting thoughts and wrap this up?
Yeah, let's just please Milan win every game between now and the end of the season. Again, I know I said it the last podcast. You know, no. Seriously, I'm praying for some sort of investment on the right hand side, and I'm just very fearful of what's going to happen in terms of management turnover and maybe a clear out up at board level if we don't get top four, and it's going to really set us back. So these are not very fun times. Hopefully, we can turn it around against Lazio. Um, yeah, deflated guys, but yeah, hopefully we can just try and salvage something out of this mess
Yeah,
of a because it is a wasted year. You know what I mean? It really is, like in so many levels, because it's like we went from winning the league to literally just you know being average. Like it's such a wasted year for me, man. What are your parting thoughts on this?
yeah. So I thought we were coming off a high because we started the season not great, but we started in the season to really challenge Napoli for the title. And we can accept losses because a title challenge shouldn't be easy. If it was that easy, everyone would be doing it. So it's not been easy, but the trajectory, and I keep mentioning this, is not looking good. Because of the teams that we struggle against, how we struggle, and also the next game that we have. I mean, if we lose to Lazio, they're back in the top four, and how about us? Everyone is gonna overlap us because we have Inter right behind us. Roma want to be there. Atlanta, who've lost a number of games and had a poor streak last year. So how is it that this can happen, especially when you're coming off a high? So it's difficult to say where we'll be at this stage because it's the halfway mark. But do we see any signs that it'll get better? I'm sorry, guys, I don't think so. So Shane, I fully agree with you, and it's going to be tough being a fan for the next several months because this is the club that we have, and we got to accept it.
Patience in all things, I guess.
Indeed, patience.
Mm.
So, with that said, I'm just gonna have a small shout out to all the listeners, subscribers. Please follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Instagram, Twitter. So we are at Milanistas 360. Great content. You can engage with the discussion. If there's any topics that you want us to cover, please let us know, and we'll cover it in the next pod. We're doing this on a weekly basis. So, anything else that you want to add, Shane? And yeah, we'll tie it up
Yeah, Forza Milan, guys. It's gonna be rough, but let's do it.
for Milan.
Italia è finita!